Hi everyone, welcome to Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max. I'm the CEO of Smith & Sons, and welcome to you if you're on the podcast listening or if you're in YouTube land. It's great to see you here again. Look, we really appreciate your attention and your ear, and we want to do as much as we can to bring value to you that you can grab this information and go and implement it in your day-to-day business. Normally what I like to do is give a lot of steak and potatoes. I like to deliver to the audience who are mostly general contractors, I think, but we could have some contractors, some electricians, some plumbers, some regular framing carpenters, etc. But look, what I want to focus on today, and it was something that we chatted about really brief yesterday in the office, and it come off the back of just knowing, I guess, what presses your buttons in a positive fashion. We obviously are pretty familiar with what presses our buttons on a negative light, but it's super important, I think, to really find out what, and look, today I want to talk about digging your well and finding your inspiration, because I remember back, and so I've, as I woke up this morning, I was sort of thinking about putting this podcast together. It really occurred to me that, we do what we love. We find space to do the things that we really want to do. None of us like to do the things that we don't enjoy, but the things that we do enjoy, we always make time for, we always make space for. And so I think, when I thought back to when I was 16 and I picked the guitar up for the first time, and, I guess at the same time that I picked the guitar up, I got an apprenticeship as a carpenter. And so what happened was, as much as I had a little bit of natural talent to play guitar, I also enjoyed construction. And of course, I wanted to make something with my life, so I wasn't about to go off and take a shot at being a musician or playing in a band. I actually felt I had more of the chops because it was early stages playing the guitar. I thought I've got more chance of actually making creating a lifestyle and building a business out of being a carpenter. And so, but I remember, vividly that the thing that motivated me or inspired me, one is I love the guitar. I'm self-taught. And so I've never sat in a lesson officially. And now I can play solos from, Angus Young and AC/DC right to Richie Zambora's, Living on a Prayer and things like that. And so, I feel like having played as an amateur for so long, what's tied me to that is my passion or my love of what the guitarist feels. And it's very self-centered. It's very selfish. It's like you get the attention because, and I joke around. It's like I played lead guitar because that's what pulled the chicks. And I know that sounds a little bit crude, but when you're 16 years old, it's all about that. And so that was that I looked at those rock gods, and I remember, Guns N' Roses is definitely one of those bands in the late 80s, early 90s that I had my eye on, and I'm like, you look at those and when you watch those guys do what they do, and it is their day job, and I'm pretty sure they're not the perfect role models, and I'm not sort of condoning a lot of what they do, but when they get on stage, what you see, what they project, it inspires you to go, I want to be a better guitarist. And so, that analogy or that story really is, when I translate that into a business sector, this is why I talk about, digging your well and finding your inspiration. And for me, in this day and age, with technology and the way that we can access the information, a guy that I really got my claws into probably about 4 or 5 years ago was Gary Vaynerchuk. I'd encourage you to, check him out. He may not be your slice of cake, but he certainly is somebody that I enjoy listening to. He's somebody that I believe is a really good human being, and certainly has taught me a lot of practical things about, business and particularly marketing and branding, but also has taught me things, or brought to my attention things like your emotional quotient and your EQ and how important HR is to your business and how, to better treat human beings. And that's something that I'm still learning and started trying to adapt to his way of thinking. And so, with that, I think it's one thing for me to say, dig your well, find your inspiration, but there's a couple of key points I want to chat about in the next 5 or 10 minutes that will help you understand that it's impossible if you're not, let's say, if you don't have a love for playing the guitar, you can watch as many Slash videos as you want, but you're never going to actually do the work to be a better guitarist. because you're not in love or you're not inspired by those people that are already doing it very well. So there's no point in, watching some stuff in business and then really taking away some of those strong points if you're not got a love for doing, for doing what you do. So I think you've got to take one step back, and the first thing I want to talk about is know who you are. You've got to understand, are you a lead dog or are you a second in command? I've got businesses within the Smith & Sons group right now where there is some strategically placed individuals. The guy that owned the franchise, he's the general contractor. He's got some key guys that are within his, what I'd call almost a C-suite inside of his core group, that are really good second in command guys, and they have no interest in being the lead dog. And I think that's super important. And there's some great there's some great chemistry that goes on within that company ecosystem, because everybody knows their job and they get respected for their job and they get rewarded for their job. And I think it's super important that all of us as human beings, we get the respect, the reward, and the recognition. It's super important. And so, that comes down to cultural development, but you've got to know what the culture is that you want to see play out in your business so that you can then recruit according to the culture, and then also maintain the culture and deal with situations where they might have started out well, but where they don't. So I think it's important that you've got to know who you are. If you're a lead dog, you're up for a challenge, because now you've got to set the pace. There is no pace setter. I've got a love for motorsport as well, and it's one thing to be the guy that's, riding the bumper of the other guy in front. He's the pioneer. He's the one who's, hitting the corners first in wet conditions, and so he's the one who finds out first if it's slippery or not. And so you can get some bravado and you can get some confidence because you're following. But the minute that you pull out in front, all of a sudden you are the pioneer, and that all of a sudden that puts you under some duress. It creates some stress on you because there's the unknown. So if you're like me and you love to be the pioneer, I can tell you right now that once I've climbed a mountain, I don't want to sit on the mountain. I want to go find another mountain to climb. It was interesting, for the last 2 or 3 months, we've been, our media department has been playing with the TikTok app, and it was just, I really loved the climb. I really loved to figure out the hack, or what's the best way to, get followers and get likes and all of that sort of stuff, because it's such an organic platform. And it was like, well, it's different to Insta, it's different to Facebook, it's different to Twitter, it's different to LinkedIn. And it's like, what's the money shot? What is it that audience is looking for? How does the TikTok algorithm work? How do we get the response? And just recently, in the last week, actually, we've got one video that this morning was at 1.4 million views. Had something like over 1,500 comments. I can't even tell you how many likes. And so it's to me, it's like I jump on there and I'm like, man, it's a really good achievement, but it's something that I'm going, okay, now what else do I do with that platform? And so, I love being the pioneer. And so if you love being the pioneer, then you will fit into the lead dog position really well. What you're going to be challenged with then is pretty much everything. Your ability to attract good talent. You attract the type of person that you are. And so it's super important not just to know who you are because you want to go and get the inspiration, but you've got to know who you are because that's the kind of people that you're going to attract into your business. So if you have a desire to have a certain culture and then you act in a different sort of way that is counterculture, you've got what we call a misalignment. You're not going to be able to reconcile if you want to act one way and then set a culture at another way, that you're not going to get traction. It's not going to work. So again, it's so important that we know who we are as individuals. And look, we're not perfect. Nobody starts out perfect. And I don't think perfection is ever something that we achieve or we reach. However, if we strive, for a goal such as that, we know that we never really reach that level where we can just basically relax. As leaders, I'm saying if you're making a shit ton of money and you want to go sit on a beach in Mexico and sip martinis and watch the sun go down, good for you. But if you want to play in the business sector on an ongoing basis, then you'll know that you walk a mile and then you see a mile. And so as you move forward, and we're talking about advancements, you're always going to, every day we learn something new. There's always something that pops up and is like, wow, I didn't know that yesterday. And so, I think that's encouraging because you've also got to have a desire to learn. You've got to know that you can't complacent. You've got to be content, but not complacent. You've got to understand that, moving through the different processes of business, it's great to, be happy with your achievements and know that you have achieved something great, but you never ever want to rest on your laurels. You never want to sort of go, well, I've made it, because that'll be the first day of, you starting to decline. You're either busy growing or you're busy dying. You cannot be half pregnant. You can't be stuck in the middle. And so progression is a natural part of life. I've got 6 kids and I keep feeding them and they keep growing up mostly. And so it's just what happens. It's a natural evolution of life. And so I think you've got to understand that in business, you can never afford to stagnate. You will never drink water from a pond that is sitting still, because that is dangerous. Where you want to gather water from is a flowing river, because you know that it's probably going to be the purest type or the purest source of water for you to consume. The second thing is you got to love what you do. I wake up and look forward to the day. I've got a whole bunch of stuff on my calendar today. I've got meetings with one of my franchisees and a brand new client who was in contact with me, I kid you not, 3 years ago. He rang the office last week and said, Max, I want to do this basement remodel. And I said, well, look, I can't do it for you, but I've got a guy that will be able to do it. So I'm going to do the handoff this morning. So I'm involved in the retail business. I was on the phone to another one of my operators. He's bringing a job to a close and we're having to deal, with some issues on that project. I don't see that as something that is a problem, to me as CEO. It's just, I love being in the game. So loving what you do is ridiculously important. I love the fact that I get the opportunity to, get off the tools as a mid-40s guy, kick off a business like Smith & Sons, and then be involved as a CEO. I mean, you're talking about a guy that didn't finish high school, dropped out in grade 11, has never done any kind of, university or college thereafter, but have basically developed skills on the fly, have really understood that there was so much more that I don't know and I need to learn. So I was able to adapt well. We came to this country 6 years ago. And, it was really a challenge because it is, even though Australia and Canada are very similar, there was definitely some massive cultural differences that we had to, adapt to. So I think in the process of growth, there is some adapting that needs to take place. And that can be a challenge because, everybody likes their comfort zone. And I've said this before, success lies outside your comfort zone. You can't steal second base with your foot still on first. You got to go, you got to move. And so, loving what you do, I think means that you would actually risk more if you love what you do. If you're not committed to the thing that you're actually doing for $1 right now, you're probably not going to throw a lot of money down and take risks. But, for me, I guess people look at me as maybe someone who takes a lot of risk. But I think what it comes down to is that, well, I want to see success in my business life. I want to see success in my company. I want to see the business grow. I want to see success in the businesses that are within the Smith & Sons group, all of our franchise general contractors. And so it just takes a lot of effort. It's like it takes a lot of risk. It takes a lot of time. And I think the commitment level that is required from people that build these big companies, actually most folks don't understand what is sacrificed to actually achieve those end goals. And so you've really got to love what it is that you do. The other thing is, I think we talk about, we've talked about the high performance pillars within Smith & Sons, and they are mindset, management, marketing, mentoring, and business mastery. And, the one that's first that always stands out in my mind is mindset. And I think there's a whole, we've done podcasts before about mindset, but, the key, I think the starter for mindset is you've got to understand from the get-go, from the minute you start to even contemplate running your own business, you must play the long game. Because I am telling you, there is things that you need to learn that you don't even know you need to learn, and you're not going to enjoy learning until you've tripped over them and it's slapped you in the face and you're at a point where you go, why isn't this working? And then you may even have an epiphany and go, I think I need to change. So, the mindset has to be, I'm in this for the long game. We've talked about the game of business being an infinite game. In other words, it's not about what you can achieve this year. We overestimate what we're going to achieve in the next 12 months. We underestimate what we're going to achieve in the next 10 years. And so it is absolutely of paramount importance that we focus on 10 years as well as the next 12 months. We've got to run it it's got to be binary. You've got to understand both. There's things that you can focus on in the 12 months coming forward, but there's things that you just got to be patient and wait. And so that is when you do have the mindset of a long game player, then you have to exercise patience. You have no choice. You can't say, oh yeah, Max, I play the long game and then are impatient and want stuff to happen in the next 12 months. Because there again is a misalignment between what you're saying and what actually you're feeling. There's a misalignment. So you've got to reconcile those two, and they've got to really come together as one. And I think the final thing that I'll close out with, I think what you have to do is, and I've heard this, it's a bit of a cliche term, but you've got to celebrate the small wins as well. I think that's important, that you do pat yourself on the back. I think we all want the reward, the recognition, and the respect. And I think sometimes everyone who's successful that I talk to, they are their own worst critic, but we can't beat ourselves up too much. And so, but we've not got to then, get high on our supply too when we have a victory, and all of a sudden, we think we can't lose, because actually that's when we're at our most vulnerable. And so, but I think what keeps us stable and what really keeps some equilibrium in our emotion is gratitude. And so, we've got to make sure that, I heard a guy once say that the peaks in business that are great and the valleys, they are both imposters. What we do is we have to run as a flat line. Okay, it's easy to get excited about the hills, and it's easy to get demoralized and disillusioned by the valleys. But I want to tell you that, tough times don't last, tough people do. And so I think, we celebrate the wins, we just accept the losses because it's part of the game. But at the end of the day, we're playing the long game. So we really just got to be grateful that we have an opportunity to do what we do. We've got to be grateful for the things and the people that are around us, that are in our ecosystem, that are helping us do what we do. And I think with that kind of with that understanding and with that appreciation, the gratitude aspect of what we do as human beings, I think being grateful for the little things is super important. The fact you've got breath in your lungs, the fact that you've got an opportunity to live in the country that you live in, the fact that you have some opportunity on the table that's available to you. I think you've just got to be what we call above the line thinkers. You've got to be positive about, even the times when you have challenge. You have that client, you have that job that you underquoted or you're underestimated. You have that contractor that failed and you had to, that sub, and you had to go and find another replacement sub and it cost you more money. I'm telling you that kind of shit that makes your life miserable, I am telling you, resistance builds muscle mass. If you push out the reps, you will be better for it. Anybody can quit, but don't you quit, because the magic lies in the challenge. So, with all that being said, if that helps you, if you know somebody that this might help, feel free to forward it to them, share it, like, comment. If you've got some questions, leave them in the comments. We will get back to you as promptly as we can. Feel free to send me an email, max@businessforbuilders.ca, or you can flick me a text if you're in North America, 250-241-8866, and I will get back to you as promptly as I can. But look, do yourself a favor and just work harder on yourself. That's what it comes down to. Go and build a great business. We'll see you next time.